Today we have a special guest speaker. His name's Bob. Bob comes from all the way from around Hutch, Plevna area. And so they run a retreat center out there, Bob and his wife, Kel. And so he's going to come and share with us today about living on mission. Sometimes we think of mission as going overseas, but we can live on mission no matter where God places us, where God plants us. And so Bob's just going to come and share with us a little bit today about his journey of living on mission. So here we go.
Thanks, Ryan. I just picked up a couple lines out of that song that I think God would want to speak into some of our lives. Unveil why we're made. Unveil why we're made. You've made us for so much more than this. And I'm convinced, for all of you guys that are on your phones or doing what else in the back, that God has a lot more for you than you could ever ask or imagine. God has, well, first of all, it's easy to speak about this because it doesn't matter where you're at in life, you're living on mission. And so it's easy to say, yeah, I'll talk about mission with people because everyone's living on mission, whether you're living on mission to get an education, whether you're living on mission here to find a spouse, or whatever that might be, whether you're living on mission to be the best athlete in your sport, you're living on mission. Some of you are living on a mission to make Jesus known. You're living on that mission. I was on this campus quite a few years ago, and I would have been sitting in the back where you guys are and thinking, this is about the biggest waste of time that I have to sit through. But I have to do it because this is where I'm at. And because for me, yeah, I had grown up in the church, but the church was about that. Boring, waste of time. There was nothing in it that seemed to provide the adventure that I wanted for my life. And so I said, I don't think I need that. I think God has more for me. I think the world has more for me than that. And so I said, I'm going to see what I could get out of life. And so while I was at this college, I got crazy, and I pursued whatever I wanted. My roommate and I bought a boat on a college loan. We water skied. We thought we were pretty much all that. We learned to barefoot water ski. We lived on the lake. We partied a lot. We partied so much that I remember we painted lines on the highway going out to the lake, turning corners as to where the party was. We'd paint it with bright yellow paint and say, follow the arrows, that's where the party will be. And a lot of people showed up. There were hundreds sometimes of people at those parties. And I look back at that and I'm thankful I could be here now because I led a lot of young people in a crazy direction. I was partly responsible for saying, let's go get crazy. And so I lived my life that way, just crazy. If there were rules to be broken, that was my point. Rules are made to be broken. And I did everything I could to do that. And somehow God in his mercy let me get through this school. And I have no idea how. I know I was on double probation for 2 years. And but God somehow allowed me to graduate. And I went on. I remember being in Cal, in the dorms there, talking with my roommate. Everyone else was filling out resumes. I said, Kel, what the heck are we going to do when we graduate? And I said, why don't we just go to Florida and water ski? And he said, we can't do that. I said, why can't we do that? And so we took off, and we went to Florida. And we went and water skied. And we water skied for a year, worked nights at Albertson's warehouse so we could water ski during the days and party and get crazy. Did the same, lived in the mountains in Colorado, snow skiing, just living life totally selfishly for whatever I could get out of it and thinking, this is what life's about. This is what the adventure's about. And pursuing that life with everything I knew how to pursue it. And very selfish. People said, you are about the most self-centered guy I know. And I said, I'm not self-centered. I couldn't even see it. Basically, I felt I wasn't self-centered because I had friends as long as they served my needs. They were my friends. As long as you serve me, this will work out fine. But there came a point where I realized that I don't know if I like this life anymore. I was, I had friends everywhere, but no friends anywhere. And no one that I could talk to life about, no one that I could share what was going on inside. That's a lot why you drank, because you didn't want to have to feel what was going on inside. And that's why most everyone drinks, I'm convinced, is to get away from who they are. And so I drank, and I drank hard, and finally I just said, remember sitting in a nightclub with my friends saying, if I saw the God of the Bible, I'd follow that God, because God did some crazy, amazing things once, but I don't know that he does that anymore. And so after too many years of that, it's in my mid-20s at that point, just realizing, what am I doing here? I'm sitting at bars in clubs at 2 o'clock in the morning. What am I doing? This life is going nowhere. And I remember, because I grew up in a church, I remember telling God, if you give me a Christian woman, I'll get out of this crazy lifestyle. And I left it at that. And so kept partying, and I met this drop-dead gorgeous girl in a club, said, yeah, I'm going to ask her if she wants to go water skiing because she'll make me look good in a boat. And it was all about me, and so she did. And in that journey, I realized, oh my goodness, here, and I was seeing it in the clubs, there's some people that are in so much pain, and I don't know what I've been given, but I know God has something for the pain of this world. I realized at that point, I really need to figure out what I'm doing with my life. So I'm going to let Kel come and share a little bit. And then.
So he prayed that he would meet a nice Christian woman or a good Christian woman, and he met me, a slut, in a bar. So be careful what you pray for, because you never know what's going to happen. So, yeah, just be careful. God has a huge sense of humor. So I'm the youngest of 5 kids. My parents did an amazing job of raising us in what they knew. But they knew violence, drugs, and alcohol. And so my childhood was just full of stitches and pain and a lot of abuse. When I met Bob, I couldn't figure it out. There was something that was so different about him, but I couldn't put a word to it. And finally, like weeks later, I realized the word kind came to my mind. Like, he didn't hit me. He didn't yell at me. He was nice to me. He was kind to me. And we started dating and all of that, and then pretty soon, 6 months later, we ended up not dating. He started talking to me one night about yokes. I thought he was talking about oxen. He was talking about unequally yoked in Christian lingo. I had no idea what he was talking about. But I knew at the end of the evening we'd broken up. I was pretty sure of that. So because I wasn't a believer. So he broke up with me. So 6 months later, he phones me and says, hey, do you want to go to a concert? And in my day, it was REO Speedwagon was the big thing. So I was like, yeah, sure, let's go. We ended up going to Hutchinson. So that was my first clue. We're not going to REO Speedwagon. Second clue, we went to Memorial Hall. Totally not going to a good concert. It was Wanda Jackson. I don't know. So we sat up on the balcony up there, and the whole time I felt so uncomfortable, and I just wanted to get out of there. I didn't know how I was going to get out of there, but I knew I needed to get out of there. I knew if I phoned my dad, we lived 30 miles away, it would end up in a hospital visit. He would beat me, and because he had to drive, and I totally disrupted his evening. I didn't have money for a cab. So at one point, I was so uncomfortable that I just stood up. I'm just like, I'm just going to go. Like, I'm going to get out of here, right? So I stood up, and Bob put his arm, or his hand on my arm, and he said, can I go with you? And in my mind, I'm thinking, score, I got my ride, right? So we walked down the stairs, and we walked past the side doors that we came in. I'm like, okay, well, maybe we're going out the front doors, right? We walked past the front doors, and he walks me straight down the aisle. And there's all these sniveling people around me, and this man on stage with his hands up. I stood up to get out of there at the exact moment that the man on stage made the altar call. So apparently I prayed that night and came to know Jesus so we could date. But the fun thing is that I did pray the prayer, and God is gracious enough. But a few years later, I really came to know what it means to to fall in love with Jesus. And in 13 years, all of my family members came to know Christ. And I look back at my childhood, and I would go through every stitch and every hit to the face, everything again, to be this much in love with Jesus. Because for my journey, that's what it took for me to fall passionately in love with Jesus.
Thanks, son. And so our journey at that point began together, and yeah, I said, because my life, I've always wanted to be about the adventure, and I said, God, I'll go wherever you want me to go. I'll do whatever you want me to do. I'm going to trust that you know the plans you have for my life, because I know where I'm headed is a dead end, and if I keep going down that road, it's going to get dark really quickly. And so I praise God that he spared me of that. And he didn't only spare me of that, I believe God in his mercy let me go down that road to show me what a dead end it was. Because until I went down, I would have always thought there was something there. And I found out there's absolutely nothing at the end of that road. And so I praise God that he got a hold of my life. And from then, wow, God has taken us on an adventure and a journey. We've got to experience what he's doing around the world. We've met amazing people like Ricky and Karen on their adventures. And at one point, were talking about joining the team as they were going to Thailand, and God didn't free us up at that point. But yeah, life has been great. God has just been, the adventure with God has so outweighed this fake adventure of trying to pursue what I wanted. It's so full and so rich. And so because of that, what would I want to do except invite others into it? This Jesus, when he talks about an abundant life, he's not kidding people. He wants to give you abundant life. Abundant life in the midst of pain, abundant life in the midst of brokenness, and abundant life in seeing people set free. And it's really an amazing journey, seeing my own life set free. And so at this point, we've been able to walk with MB Mission in providing spaces for teams to come and train and equip. And now we have this retreat place called the Oasis. We've done a lot of their training out there, and now we've come on with them as helping mobilize and encourage young people to encounter Jesus in new ways. And so we have this opportunity to walk with young people, and there's nothing more exciting for me to be in a place like this, where I know once where I was struggling, I couldn't find direction, I was lost and confused, and I needed someone to direct me to Jesus, a Jesus that loved me, that was passionate about me, and that knew the plans he had for my life that were way greater than I could ever ask or imagine. And so we want to invite you into that. We have a few slides here. Just let me read this to you guys. God is inviting you to step out in faith and go to places with him. Some of those places may be exotic destinations around the globe, but many more will be unexplored places of the heart. God is your navigator and your compass. He's calling you to trust him. Are you ready for the adventure? It's time to go. And yeah, I call you guys. Are you ready for that adventure? Are you ready to step in with God? Because he has an adventure, and the adventure a lot of times may not be exotic places. It's diving deep into your heart and saying, let's go there. Let's find out what's going on there. Because, yeah, there was a few years back, we were living in California, and we knew God was calling us to something different, and my roommate that I used to party with was now following Jesus as well, and he called and said, do you think we could explore this together in Kansas? And I said, God, I hope not, because I didn't think Kansas could provide an adventure for anyone. I'd been here, and I didn't think there was an adventure in Kansas. But I'm telling you, if God calls you to Kansas, he's got an adventure for you. He has things for you to explore with him. And yeah, these years we've been here have been on an adventure. Not just an adventure. God has allowed us to go all around the world since we've been here. But it's also an adventure of the heart and venturing with other people to find their heart and to find what God has for them. So we do want to invite you. And like I say, I don't care if you go with MB Mission. I don't care who you go with. Just go encounter Jesus. And MB Mission wants to provide ways you can do that. And here are some ways next summer that will provide that opportunity. 10-day inner-city ministry experiences, 3 to 6 weeks, international opportunities. They'll be with Ricky and Karen in Thailand and other places all around the world. And then Trek, a 1-year program. Some of you may say, I want to take a year off from college and I want to go see what God has for me. I wished every student was required to do an international experience before they graduated. It changes everything about the way you see life if you allow God to enter into that with you. And so I encourage you to explore what God has for you. I know for each one sitting here, he has more for you. And he's going to be patient enough for some of you to go to the very end of where you're going. And then he's going to say, okay, here I am. Here I am. And so that's my prayer, that wherever you're at in the journey, that, you will encounter Jesus, because he is everything. He is everything. There's nothing out there that could fill a void in your life. And it's only Jesus, and it's only in living surrendered to that. Because I think many of you know a Jesus that you're really not surrendered to. You're just living a life, and some of you are living a life, this is part of my early journey, living a life of committed. If I just commit myself more, I just need to recommit myself. Guys, it doesn't work. It's not about you recommitting yourself. You cannot do it. If you could do it on your own, you wouldn't need Jesus. It's about saying, I surrender. I cannot do this anymore. I need help. And it's when you surrender and say, Jesus, you do this, because I'm a messed up man, and I need you. That's when God could do what only God can do. So Allie's going to come, close us with a song, and we just invite you to join in what Jesus has for you.